Hi, this is Dr. Sezin Zengin. Today we are together with Professor İsmail Genç from American University of Sharjah. Very welcome, Professor.
Thank you.
And today we will be talking about the impact of technology on prices. So, your recent study is the impact of technology on prices. Firstly, I would like to ask what that means broadly.
Technology is probably prevalent everywhere in the modern age, and everybody and everything is affected by technology. And obviously, prices cannot be an exception. Basically, what we're trying to understand the impact of information pervasiveness, which means that information being so widely available in any economy, and the impact of that phenomenon on the prices in particular and inflation in general. So would people having more information behave differently from a case where they don't really have that much information? And in recent years, Amazon seems to be a company which leads in information dissemination. Amazon puts all of their prices online for everybody to see, both the customers and also potential rivals. Everybody knows what Amazon is charging for a certain product. Me, as a consumer, of course, I'm going to compare Amazon prices to somebody else's prices if I want to buy a book, if I want to go to a movies, etc. And as I know it, as I find out this price, the sellers also, Amazon's rivals, are also getting the same information. So question, would that fact that everybody knows everything and everybody knows that everything would have any impact on the behavior of consumers and sellers? I guess the recent work that I'm working on is trying to investigate that phenomenon.
All right. In this case, once everybody knows everything and the information is broadly available to everyone, then what happens is mostly the consumers are checking the prices from the largest or well-known places, or they can do any type of internet search to figure out the price. But what it creates for the smaller companies or for the rivalry is it will be the following up of.
Yes, that is correct. So, I mean, if Amazon is really the leader in setting the prices, and if it has no rival, then of course it will be a monopoly and it can take advantage of its monopoly position. But we know that online it's much easier to compete with someone. In other words, the entry costs are much smaller online than, say, compared to a brick and mortar store. So no one in an online world will remain as a leader unrivaled forever and ever. I mean, Amazon is there, but everybody knows Alibaba, right? Alibaba has market share larger than Amazon and all other big companies put together. And probably there will be another company to rival them, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So no one company can safely rely on their market position forever and ever online. That's why it's smart that you do not exploit your situation, your market situation, even if you're a leader online. One, two, even if you try to do that, other companies will very, very quickly set their shop online and rival you, especially in products that we can buy and sell online.
In this case, the prices will be lowered up to the, marginal cost in general. And your study states that this will create a very low inflation.
Yeah.
And the central banks are concerning regarding to this lower inflation.
Well, I would say that in general, of course, central banks want price stability and lower inflation is good for them. But the central bank's bigger concern is the ability to control prices rather than having low inflation. If somebody else other than the central bank sets the prices, of course, central bank cannot anymore do monetary policy, at least in terms of prices. And we know that every central bank in the world has primarily been concerned with inflation and secondarily perhaps with the full employment. So if central banks lose the ability to set prices stable and probably lower, then their pure existence would be questioned, right? To say the least. And there are researchers, by the way, who question their existence, but I don't want to get into that discussion for now. So central banks would like also know whether this Amazon effect is a temporary phenomenon, it's a transitory, it's a fad, comes and goes, and maybe it is like 1980s Walmart, impact of Walmart. Perhaps it came and is gone, etc. Because once the prices are bare minimum, chances are something else would push them back up again, as in the case of Walmart. So central banks are not necessarily concerned with low inflation in many countries where we have high inflation. They are, yes, they're rightfully concerned about inflation in industrialized countries. Europe, United States, etc.
All right.
United States, etc.
All right. I'm wondering what is your point of view about the smaller companies or smaller corporations, how they can survive against this, let's not so call it price wars, but lower prices.
Well, economy is changing, and we know from principles of economics that when the economy changes, if you cannot adapt yourself to the new mode of economy, you will disappear. I'll give you a very simple example. As I told you before, my late mother, is my best economics professor, the first definitely, and probably arguably the best. I remember when I was a little kid, Mom and I went to the courthouse, and we were supposed to submit some petition for something which I forgot what it was about. And so there was a guy sitting right across from the courthouse. He had a chair, a little desk, and a typewriter and a bunch of papers, right? We went to him. He's right across from the courthouse. We went to him and explained to him the problem, and then he wrote our petition. We took the petition and delivered it to the courthouse across from the street. Last time I went home, that guy is not there. But I've got news for you. His son is not without a job. His son right now is driving a driverless car in San Francisco out of his office in New York. Of course, this is not a real story. The first part is real. The latter is somebody else, but I combine them. And all I'm trying to say that economy is changing. The mode of production is changing. The mode of consumption is changing. And small or big, we have to adapt. And as you and I discussed before, the small companies have to find their ways to adjust. Otherwise, yes, they will disappear. Unless they adjust, as that guy, the petition writer, disappeared.
So also we discussed about that there might be a way to lower inflation in developing countries such as ours, and that might be making the information more available. That's one way that the governments use as monetary policy to lower the cost, encouraging more well-known prices. And like for doing that, your suggestion especially was you were talking about that, bringing small companies together and create corporations so they can agree on certain prices and minimize the prices in the market.
I'm not sure how much governments can reduce prices, really. what they can do is to prepare the market in such a way that it will be competitive. Right. Central banks probably have better position to lower prices if they can. But what if we have market rigidities, which means we have too many layers of middlemen stacked on top of each other, which sits between the producer and the consumer? That's very difficult then to eliminate inflation, very difficult. So government cannot do much except legally say something to shorten that distance between the producer and the consumer. But my point here is that government or whoever, maybe a corporation, in the modern age, in the high-tech era, find a way to disseminate information about prices. Disseminate information about prices. So make sure that everybody knows everything. If everybody knows everything, then everybody knows that everybody knows everything. Both sellers and producers will act with that information in the back of their minds. By the way, we are then in a perfect competitive market. In a perfect competitive market, we have to lower prices to the marginal cost. This is what my late mother and I used to do when I went to farmer's market as a seller. First, we had to check everybody's prices before we set our own prices. You see what I mean? So my recommendation, and I do this also in my presentation in the conference, and my recommendation to central bankers actually is to make sure that you let everybody knows everything. And in modern age, this is an app. I mean, Trivago lets everybody know what the price of all kind of hotels everywhere is. So you really pick from there. You don't have to make phone call one after the other. And I remember when I wanted to buy insurance back in the States, I had to call every insurance company. Imagine the time I spent. What about that flight ticket that we used to buy, you know? Call every company and spend hours, etc., trying to find out the shortest distance and cheapest, etc. Now, internet does all of those things. So we could do the same thing for grocery store in my hometown, in my village. So make the information available, and it is possible. We have examples.
Yes, and with current technology, it's not that hard to.
It's very possible. Everybody has a cell phone, by the way, except me, right? So everybody has a cell phone, everybody has a smartphone. Everybody can say, all right, I need these things. This is the shopping list that I have. Where do I go find this? I can imagine that it is not too difficult to conceive an app which will give me the prices in comparison to different stores. Now, potentially, I can, with the click of a button, I can say, you bring me all of those things. I will leave you out there to dry in the cold. This is really not that difficult to do. But again, of course, this assumes that we are in a perfectly competitive market. If we have too many people, as a matter of fact, if we have anybody in the middle, that would be very difficult to eliminate the prices. So that says that on one hand, we make information available. On the other hand, we make legal structures such that these people, the middlemen, plural, disappear. And on the other hand, as I always say, we have to have the producers more professional. The producers may be my farm and my village men, right? We act more professionally.
If they can reach the customers directly,
exactly.
then the situation will change drastically.
Yes. And as I said before, these industrial zones. I mean, too many people producing the very same thing, and they're competing against each other, and they all got stuck in the twilight zone of very low quality production. I mean, why don't we innovate something out of whatever we've been doing for ages. I read every so often in the paper that somebody manufactured a car for himself. Okay, great, wonderful. Especially people in my region,
But from
the Black Sea.
economic efficiency point.
Right. People in my region, Black Sea. We have lots of stories, and we're very smart people in my region. There was this guy who built his own ship or something, and then somebody asked him, where's the plan, and etc. He said, plans are all over here. If the plans are there, once you die, they die too. You see what I mean? So we have to be more professional on the producer side, on the information side, and educate consumers also to be more professional. The future consumer will know how to access information. That's why the future producer better be prepared for that consumer.
Information out there for the consumer. Okay, that was great. Thank you very much for this conversation.
You're more than welcome. It was my pleasure.
Okay, thank you.